The situation in world politics and in our culture, I don't know what to call it exactly at the moment, but it's unsustainable and it's getting out of hand, right? We've got dictators around the world like Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping threatening our way of life. You know, they're at psychological, ideological and real, genuine, tangible war with the West. And our own leaders here in the West seem to be doing nothing more than to encourage them so as to distract from the dire situation that we find ourselves in our own countries. The people in power are behaving more and more irresponsibly, and yesterday things took a turn for the worse. Now, the shape-shifting reptilians that run the mainstream media are trying to distract your attention with a red flag event, which is North Korea and South Korea firing missiles at each other. That's not as dangerous as what happened on Tuesday. What happened on Tuesday threatened to rip a hole in the space-time continuum.
I'm very good at Jeopardy!
Shut up, bitch!
Oh, I'll bet you are very good at Jeopardy, Meghan. I bet you play a mean game of Jeopardy, jeopardizing the very fabric of our universe. The mutually assured destruction of a nuclear war would guarantee that cities would be wiped out. Whole swathes of countries would cease to exist. But Meghan Markle sitting down with Sophie Grégoire Trudeau? Are you fucking mental?
You maniacs! You blew it up!
The combined narcissism of Meghan Markle and Sophie Grégoire Trudeau. It could have created a vacuum so powerful as to cause our solar system to collapse in on itself. And the owners of Spotify are just sitting around watching it happen. They're paying for this. They're actively encouraging this conversation to go ahead. They're just there like Shia LaBeouf. Do it! Do it! On the other hand, it gave me some great content.
This past summer, a friend of mine was in town with her kids for a few days. Now this, to me, was very exciting. Because I hadn't seen her for a while, and the idea of getting our kids together, this was a real treat. We swam, we drank wine, we splashed in the water.
I apologize for how much of her voice you have to listen to in my videos, but I do think it adds something to the videos, you know. You can get an idea of what you're up against, kind of thing. I find that reading articles, you often forget just how vacuous and unrelatable she is.
Then threw some pool floats in. By the way, the inflatable pizza slice proved to be a big hit, which I found online, and I kid you not, the one without pepperoni was a few dollars less than the one with pepperoni. And yes, I'm still talking about the inflatable pizza float for the pool.
Why? This is the thing, right? I think a lot of the time, narcissists, and I do think she's a narcissist. I don't know, obviously. I'm not Dr. Todd Grandy, but I think she's a narcissist. A lot of the time, it's almost like they're autistic, because they just can't relate to what people will find funny and what the people will find disgusting, and what they kind of act very well to a degree, but there's this level, there's just not quite on the same wavelength as normal people. So it's like the pizza slice. There was a few dollars less without pepperoni. There's too much laughter there. You need to tone it down a little. I can't quite put my finger on it, right? And this is why people who don't care about Meghan and about this whole thing that's going on, they don't get it, because you can't really point to anything exactly that's wrong. It's just wrong.
We all got a good laugh out of that. But all that aside, this wasn't our day of being the wives and moms all perfectly coiffed with updos and pearls and demure smiles.
What are you talking about, Meghan?
This was the other version of us. Both with wild curly hair and swimsuits and loose linen and huge belly laughs.
Well, you all know what laughter sounds like.
Big cuddles with our little ones. And quiet whispers of girl talk on the terrace, giddy, like absolute schoolgirls.
Can you imagine the giddy, spontaneous, schoolgirl-esque conversation between Meghan Markle and Sophie Grégoire Trudeau? How much do you know about Sophie Grégoire Trudeau. This is Sophie. Have a look.
Because I have heard my fellow human beings and friends here today sing. This is not planned, trust me.
Why, of course we trust you. You're a fellow human being.
I'm going to step up. Yes, and I'm going to sing you a song that I wrote for my daughter, Ella Grace. And it goes like this. Some people doubt that angels can fly.
You know the saying, behind every great man there is a great woman? Bit heteronormative if you ask me. Well, this is Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's wife, which just goes to show, you know, that behind every complete fucking arsehole, there's a totally relatable fellow human being.
We were just having so much fun. You wondering who I'm talking about?
No, her name's in the title, so... I mean, it's Sophie Grégoire Trudeau. It's in the title.
I'll let her introduce herself.
For homies, it's Sophie G in the house, but nobody knows this.
What a totally relatable fellow human being. Did an extremely wealthy white woman just say, for homies, it's Sophie G in the house? I'm gonna vomit.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, for once Meghan is more relatable than our guest. For once, if Meghan cried racism, I'd be like, yeah, a little bit.
If you didn't guess it yet, perhaps this introduction is more of what you're familiar with.
What disdain for our audience. Who hasn't guessed it yet? There are two possible people, right, on the podcast. And one of them is Sophie Grégoire Trudeau. And she's just introduced herself as Sophie G. Have you guessed it yet? You retards.
Sophie Grégoire is my legal name, and then Sophie Grégoire Trudeau because of the association.
The association? You mean marriage?
And I get called Madame because of protocol very often. I'm sure you know about, how that feels. And it just, my ears screech every time I'm like, oh, I'm not a Madame.
No, of course not. You're straight out of Compton.
That's Sophie Grégoire Trudeau. She's an activist,
No.
humanitarian mother,
Nope, sorry. That's still not ringing any bells.
and also wife to Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
Oh, well, why didn't you say so? Of course. Sophie Grégoire Trudeau. Yeah, that should have. Of course, it's Justin Trudeau's wife.
Sophie has become a dear friend and someone who I think is so emblematic of strength that comes from embracing your humanity, even in the face of all these family and home and public pressures.
I'm sorry, what? She's become a dear friend and someone who is...
Someone who I think is so emblematic of strength that comes from embracing your humanity, even in the face of all these family and home and public pressures.
Ah, yes, that old adage, of course. Yeah, absolutely. I've said that loads of times. In fact, I said it just a couple of days ago to my wife in the kitchen. We'd put the kids to bed and we're just over a glass of wine talking about our relationship. And I said, you're a great wife and a mother to our children. But more so than anything else, you have come to be so emblematic of the strength that comes from embracing your humanity, even in the face of all these family and home and public pressures. She was kind of like scrolling through Instagram and she said, what? A bit distracted. And I said, you are so emblematic of strength that comes from embracing your humanity, even in the face of all these family, home, and public pressures. And the second time I said that, she looked into my eyes and she said, what the fuck does that even mean? And I said, well, you are so emblematic of strength. And she said, no, I heard all of it, right? But what does it mean? It was just like a long list of words that didn't really... How can you be emblematic of strength? That's a difficult concept. I mean, if we're talking about physical strength, I guess you would look at bench presses and Mr. Universe competitions, and that would be emblematic of physical strength. I guess if you're talking about strength in a figurative sense, you would talk about someone who is emotionally resilient, which might make sense if you say I'm emblematic of strength. Though I don't know why you would say that and not just say I'm strong. But you say that I'm not only emblematic of strength, but that I'm emblematic of the strength that comes from embracing your humanity, which is another figurative concept. Your humanity and embracing your humanity. They're two figurative things. To embrace figuratively something that is figurative, like humanity, and to be emblematic of the strength that is derived from doing those two figurative things. So to be emblematic of strength is a difficult concept enough, she said. But to be emblematic of the strength that comes from embracing humanity is basically meaningless. And to say that I do that even in the face of all these family, home and public pressures, in the face of pressure is what you mean. Again, a figurative concept, because we're not talking about physical force. We're talking about family, home and public pressures, daily life and stress, right? You're saying that, what? I'm good at getting strength from embracing my humanity? Not really, no, because you said I'm emblematic of that. So I'm sort of like a representation, a figurative representation of the strength that one can derive from, I don't know what, kind of accepting their own humanity in their life, even though there is stress around them. You know, you can't just read off a list of vaguely nice sounding words and expect me to feel complimented. At which point I just got up from the kitchen table and I said, well, fuck off then. I slammed the door behind me as I went to bed with my glass of wine.
Keeping that sense of self while holding up the mantle of what comes with being a parent and a spouse, that's a full plate.
That's bizarre, because actually what happened to me was that after about half an hour sulking and drinking wine alone in bed, I went back to the kitchen and I said, look, I'm sorry. I don't know how to express myself sometimes. Emotions get the better of me, and you've got a lot on your plate, Anna. As some would say, it's quite a full plate. And yet you manage to keep your sense of self so well, even in the face of holding up the mantle that comes with being a spouse and a parent. And again, she was kind of distracted scrolling through Instagram, and she said, what? I said, I said that I'm sorry and that I admire you because, you know, you've got quite a full plate and you still manage to keep your sense of self, even in the face of holding up the mantle that comes with being a parent and a spouse. And she just went straight back to Instagram. You know, we haven't spoken since.
I just absolutely adore you. And Sophie, you and I have known each other for, gosh, how many years now? Since I was living in Toronto.
Yeah.
When was that? When we went to the Canadian Fashion Awards night. I think that's when CAFA. That's when I met you. And that was, what, 7 years ago? 8 years?
For sure.
Like
for
that.
sure it's 7 years ago or more than that.
Oh, there's plenty more to look at here in this podcast, but I think that is enough for today's video. Do you want me to carry on? I'm going to carry on whether you want me to or not, but tell me if you want me to. It makes me feel validated. I'll see you in the next one.